Hi, good evening, it's Gene from Mavstyle. My analysis was 100% absolutely right. Was it not? I dare somebody to say it wasn't. I said, first of all, when the airspace clears over Iraq, between Iran and Israel, there will be missiles flying. Woe and behold, I was right. I wasn't just right on that, I was right on something else. That the ground attack was going to take place, and that it seemed imminent, where Israel were going to invade Lebanon. So, on 2 accounts in just 7 days, I have been absolutely right, which not many people could predict that. And we're just watching, the RAF tornadoes return back to Cyprus base, and following a accompanied air tanker refueler, which I can highlight for you. Here's the thing, people think it's a glamorous job being a fighter pilot, and it really isn't. It has its ugly side. And here's the thing that most people won't know, and especially women, that women love to, oh, he's a fighter pilot, ooh, amazing. But let me tell you, when he opens that cockpit, I'm sure the ground crew of that Typhoon don't go within the vicinity of that for a good half hour. They let it air. And the reason is because these fighter pilots wear nappies. Oh, there's no toilet in there, let's face it. If you're going on a 15-hour mission, then where are you going to go to the toilet? So they are regularly shitting themselves and pissing themselves in the cockpit. Can you imagine that? Sitting in your own squelchy shit for 15 hours. On the morning of your mission, you're probably not going to have a big breakfast, because, you're just going to be pushing back something else. It won't be pushing back the F-16 or, the Tornado or the F-35 or the F-22 Raptor. You'll be pushing back something else. So, it's not a glamorous job, what they do. In the air refuelers, I believe they do have, personnel toilets. But in the fighter jets, no way. You get a nappy, and if you need a piss, you do it in that nappy. If you need a shit, you do it in that nappy. And there's the one side of this business that isn't regularly, told to people, but it's the absolute truth. And let's face it, common sense. How many people can hold it for 15 hours? So, where are you going to do it? Exactly. And that's why, the air forces around the world issue the diaper. And that's why the ground crew, when these fighter jets come back off these long duration missions, you know what, they let that cockpit fucking stay open for 30 minutes or more to degas, because it stinks. And those pilots, you see them walking like cowboys that have been on a horse for 48 hours. Well, the reason why they're walking like that is because they've shit themselves, and it's squelching. Can you imagine being in a G-suit when you've shit yourself? It's going to squirt that shit all the way down to your fucking back of your knees and all the way up to your armpits. Oh dear. I know I'm making light-hearted of a serious thing, but you know what? Most people don't care anymore. They don't care that they're being led like lemmings by corrupt governments around the world, and they're not prepared to even get off their arse and do something about it. That they will moan to their wives that, oh, for fuck's sake, we're getting taxed 40% on what we earn. We're giving away, the majority of what we earn, or half the majority of what we earn, to the government, And they're giving it away to Israel for weapons. They're giving it away to Ukraine for weapons and funding their governments where their taxpayers should be funding their own governments. And if they can't fund their own governments, then them governments should absolutely fail. Full stop. If you can't fund yourself, you should fail. But no. You know, we've got an international benefit system. And right now, we're supporting psychopaths like Netanyahu, who has took on more than he can chew and has had his arse slapped. He's had his arse actually handed to him by Iran yesterday. And rightfully so. You know what? You're attacking Yemen, you're attacking Syria, you're attacking Lebanon, you're attacking Gaza. You know, you're killing hundreds of thousands of people. And you're pointing the finger then at everybody else being a terrorist. Get fucking real. Here's the thing. If where we are right now, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's a hot zone. You know, Iran have launched 200 missiles into Israel overnight. And there weren't drones, slow moving drones that took 8 hours to travel, you know, that distance to Israel. These were ballistic missiles. Not easy to take down. Your tornado pilots are pretty much useless. You know, in trying to, you know, take them down, because as soon as they get a lock on, they get a lock off. Because they're travelling so fast. And we're not even in the territory yet of hypersonic missiles. And you've got absolutely no chance. You fire 200 hypersonic missiles into Israel and everyone will hit. The Iron Dome won't be able to stop hypersonic missiles. It barely struggled yesterday with, you know, ballistic. You know, heaven forbid the ballistic missiles are carrying nuclear tactical weapons, because Israel would have been glass today. Absolute glass. But what I wanted to say more than anything else is, we've got Netanyahu, who's creating a scene right now in the Middle East. You know, just gun-ho, shoot everything without, I think, tactical thinking. Because here's the thing, if Netanyahu, you know, stirs up Iran that much that the United States start to get involved, and then Iran attack, let's say, a couple of aircraft carriers and sink them, then the possibility of a nuclear strike on Iran is very high. And then Iran has its supporters, allies like Russia. Russia has its allies like China. So, you know, not before long, it could trigger a nuclear war. But then everybody is going to point the finger back to Israel and say, you started it. So how are people after that point, in the new day, after a nuclear war has taken place and it has, you know, finished itself off, how will people associate with Jews from that point? Jews will be seen as the nation of people that created a situation that started a nuclear war, and they won't be liked for that. That's why it's a bad idea to, you know, make matters worse by retaliating. What these world leaders need to do is sit down at a table and work out a solution. They've tried to do that with Netanyahu, but he just refuses, point blank, for a two-state partisan. He doesn't want it. So what else does he want then? If he doesn't want peace, and he doesn't want the Palestinians to have their own stretch of land and it be respected by a border and their laws. What else does he want? He wants to eradicate them. And you can't disagree with me here, because Palestinians was told to retreat to the south, the southern border on Egypt. They did that. They ended up in refugee camps, but it didn't stop Netanyahu blowing them refugee camps up. And his justification was, we're after Hezbollah targets. And then he invades Lebanon. In the same way he invaded Gaza. And he expects people in Lebanon to believe what he's got to say. What he's trying to do is, by targeting Beirut, he's trying to push them further north so that they'll run to Syria. And if Syria shut the border, there'll be a refugee camp, and then he'll be bombing that refugee camp. For sure, in their dreamiest desires, Israel want to, blow up the Iranian nuclear facilities. In their dreamiest ideas, that's what they want to do. But I think if they do attempt to do that, shortly after will be a day of awakening for Israel. I really believe that. And I don't hate Israel. I don't hate Jews. I just think that the person running the country, and I know that 40% of the people in Israel would agree with me right now, is the wrong person for the job, because he is not sustaining peace. This is a maniac. Not short of Hitler. I mean, look at him conquering Palestine, Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, and then having a go at Lebanon, increasing landmass. Incredible. And this is going to go on. There will only be one way out of ending all this: murder and loss of life. Loss of, more so, civilian life. You know what? If the militaries want to fight, put them on a playing field where there's no civilian buildings. Let them fight it out between them. Don't engage in targeting civilian buildings in the justification because one person out of 1,000 in that building was a bad person. Because if you was good enough, you would not need to do that. You know what? It's so sad, that everything has been manipulated in our world. CO2, the war, the justification for wars. We see people like Michael Clark, who does a lot of interviews on the mainstream news, supposedly a professor of war analogy of some sorts, absolutely lying through his face. It's a wonder his face never fell off because of the amount of lies that was being protrude out of his arsehole that looks like a mouth. Is incredible. It really is. Saying that, some of these missiles, the Israeli Iron Dome system detects, are not going to hit the target, so they let them carry on, and therefore you will see them explode in the background. And 90% or 99% of the missiles that were fired from Iran never hit the targets. Let me tell you something now. 80% of those missiles were on key. If otherwise, Israel would say, look, this is this military base, this is this military air force base, and here's this other base, and there is no, as you can see, damage. They won't do it. What they do is downplay everything. And it's just a bullshit game. It's like Israel right now, and Netanyahu reminds me of this 1950s crackerjack face that pops up with his big donkey ears flapping at the side of his head whilst he spews his bullshit, trying to convince the Iranian people that their government are the evil people. You've got no chance of doing that. I'm sure that was one of the reasons why the Iranian government thought, you know what, let's hit crackerjack face, or Jack in the Box face, with 200 missiles later. I believe that's what was going on there. And they got their arse handed to them, clear and simple. And that Michael Clark is nothing but, a shill for the British fucking MI5 as far as I can be concerned. You know what, the amount of spewing BS coming out that guy's mouth yesterday in them interviews was ridiculous. I even sent him links in the bottom of his interview. I said, Michael Clark, take a look at this link, because you're saying not one of these missiles had any impact. And I sent him a link of somebody that put on YouTube of these things going off on the ground in Israel. Oh, they was definitely hitting the ground. He seemed to think they was in the distance, going off in the desert, dropping into the sea. That's the bullshit he was saying. And the Iron Dome is so mighty and good. No. The truth is, Iran overbeat the Iron Dome yesterday. And it came as a surprise to them, because within 15 minutes of the launch, they was over the airspace of Israel. And they were dropping, and they were moving that fast, the Iron Dome couldn't keep up with it, and that's why, the damage was caused. But you know what? If Netanyahu never invaded Lebanon, those missiles wouldn't have flew over their heads. If Netanyahu never, persecuted the Palestinians so much in the Gaza Strip, the Yemenis Houthis would never be targeting ships as well as, Israel. They have only got themselves to blame for the situation which they're in right now. And I just want to say this. Israel thinks that they can overwhelm Iran. And you're talking about a population of 90 million people compared to less than 10 million people. Yeah, right. Let's see how that works out. You've got 10 to 1 on your back. Let's see how well you deal with that. With all your determination in the world, you will be defeated. And not only Iran, but then Lebanon, and then all those people you've upset in Yemen and throughout the Middle East. It just ain't working out well for you. You continue, being gun-ho, firing at the east, at the west, at the south, and see how well that goes down for you. It's not going to work out very well. You know what? If I was you, my best advice to Netanyahu, and he never will listen, but my best advice to Netanyahu is sit at the table with your neighbours and come to a solution that is equally accepted by all of you. Because if you all want to live in peace, then you need to talk with each other. And you need to reach some diplomacy and negotiate. And if you can't do that, then please don't send the rest of the world into a nuclear war because of it. On another hand, I'm waiting for our supportive YouTubers to kick in. We're at that point in time where we can break out the SD card out the Trimag system at any time. Let's see what happens. My analysis is being accurate on this. I can apply this logic to a lot of things. I have done already. I've brought to the attention of YouTubers, people like you that come here looking for information, analysis on certain things that has come to fruition. Absolutely 100%. Just like this week with what's going on over in the Middle East. I haven't seen anyone in detail like I've been doing over the last 5 days, talking about this, telling you what to look out for, and then lo and behold, it happens before it's announced on mainstream media. If that is worth anything to any of you, you want the heads up before anyone else gets it, then support us. Entirely up to you. Link down there in the description. I'll say what I usually do. You know what? Give your family a big hug. Tell them you love them. And I will say what I usually do at this point. Bye for now.